Your family is supposed to love you unconditionally. But what happens when they're the ones causing you the most pain? I'm about to share something that took me years to learn. Setting boundaries with family doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a healthy one. Here's what nobody tells you about family relationships. Just because someone is related to you by blood doesn't mean they have unlimited access to your time, energy, or emotional well-being. That's a hard truth to swallow. But it's one that will set you free. Think about this for a second. You wouldn't let a stranger criticize your life choices every time you see them. You wouldn't allow a coworker to guilt trip you into doing things you don't want to do. So why do we accept this behavior from family members? The answer is complicated, but understanding it is the first step to change. Let's talk about what boundaries actually are. Boundaries are not walls. They're not about cutting people off or being mean. Boundaries are simply the limits you set to protect your mental health, your time, and your peace of mind. They're about teaching people how to treat you. Many of us grew up believing that family comes first no matter what. We were taught that you forgive family for anything. You show up for family events even when you don't want to. You answer every phone call. You give money when asked. You sacrifice your own needs for the sake of family harmony. But here's the problem with that mindset. It creates an environment where toxic behavior thrives. When there are no consequences for hurtful actions, people keep doing them. Your enabling becomes their permission slip to continue treating you poorly. Let me share a real example. Sarah had a mother who constantly criticized her parenting choices. Every visit turned into a lecture about what Sarah was doing wrong. Her kids weren't eating the right foods. She wasn't strict enough. She worked too much. The criticism never ended. For years, Sarah endured this because she thought that's what good daughters do. They take it. They smile. They don't rock the boat. But the stress was affecting her marriage, her relationship with her kids, and her own mental health. Something had to change. Sarah finally set a boundary. She told her mother that criticism about her parenting was no longer acceptable. If it happened during a visit, the visit would end. If it happened on the phone, she would hang up. Simple. Clear. Non-negotiable. Her mother didn't take it well at first. She accused Sarah of being disrespectful. She played the victim. She tried guilt trips. But Sarah held firm. And you know what happened? After a few months, her mother adjusted. The relationship actually improved because there were clear expectations. Now let's talk about the different types of difficult family members you might encounter. There's the guilt tripper who makes you feel bad for living your own life. There's the boundary pusher who ignores your requests and does whatever they want. There's the drama creator who turns every gathering into a conflict zone. There's the financial manipulator who constantly asks for money or expects you to fund their lifestyle. There's the emotional vampire who dumps all their problems on you but never listens when you need support. And Therese the critic who has an opinion about everything you do, and none of those opinions are positive. Recognizing which type you're dealing with helps you set appropriate boundaries. Each situation requires a slightly different approach. But the core principle remains the same. You have the right to protect yourself from harmful behavior, even when it comes from family. Let's address the guilt factor because this is huge. Setting boundaries with family often comes with crushing guilt. You might feel selfish. You might worry about what other family members will think. You might fear that you're being too harsh or unforgiving. Here's what you need to understand. Guilt is a tool that difficult people use to maintain control. When you start setting boundaries, they'll often try to make you feel guilty for doing so. They'll say things like you've changed, you're not the same person, you don't care about family anymore. But feeling guilty doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means you're doing something different. You're breaking patterns that have existed for years or even decades. Change is uncomfortable. That discomfort manifests as guilt. Push through it. So how do you actually set these boundaries? First, get clear on what you need. What behaviors are you no longer willing to tolerate? What kind of treatment do you deserve? What would make family interactions healthier for you? Write these things down. Be specific. Instead of saying I want my sister to respect me, say I will not engage in conversations where my sister insults my spouse. The more specific you are, the easier it becomes to enforce your boundaries. Next, communicate your boundaries clearly. This doesn't have to be a dramatic confrontation. You can have a calm conversation where you explain what you need. Use I statements. Say things like I feel disrespected when you comment on my weight, so I'm asking you to stop. Be prepared for pushback. Difficult family members rarely accept boundaries gracefully. They might argue. They might minimize your feelings. They might promise to change but then continue the same behavior. This is where your resolve gets tested. Enforcement is everything. A boundary without consequences is just a suggestion. If someone crosses your boundary, you must follow through with the consequence you established. If you said you'd leave if they brought up a certain topic, then leave when they bring it up. Consistency is key. You can't enforce a boundary sometimes and ignore it other times. That just teaches people that your boundaries are negotiable. They're not. Your mental health and peace of mind are not up for debate. Let's talk about what happens when you set boundaries. Some family members will respect them. They might not understand at first, but they'll adjust because they value the relationship. These are the people worth keeping close. Others will fight you every step of the way. They'll test your boundaries repeatedly. They'll try to find loopholes. They'll recruit other family members to pressure you into backing down. These are the people who benefit from your lack of boundaries. And some family members will cut you off entirely. They'll choose their desire to control you over having a relationship with you. This is painful. It feels like rejection. But it's actually them showing you who they are. Believe them. You might lose relationships when you set boundaries. That's a real possibility you need to accept. But here's the truth. A relationship that can't survive healthy boundaries isn't a relationship worth having. You're not losing anything valuable. You're gaining freedom. What about family gatherings? This is where things get tricky. You can't control other people's behavior, but you can control your response and your participation. You don't have to attend every event. You can leave early. You can decline invitations without explanation. If you do attend, have an exit strategy. Drive yourself so you are not dependent on others for a ride. Set a time limit before you arrive. Have a code word with your partner or a friend who can call you with a fake emergency if needed. Protect your peace above all else. If being at a family event is going to damage your mental health, you have permission to skip it. You don't owe anyone an explanation. A simple "I won't be able to make it" is sufficient. Let's address the people who will tell you that you're wrong. Other family members might pressure you to just deal with it or keep the peace. They might accuse you of being dramatic or oversensitive. They benefit from you not having boundaries because it keeps the family system functioning as it always has. Don't let other people's comfort determine your boundaries. They're not living your life. They're not dealing with the emotional aftermath of these interactions. Their opinion about what you should tolerate is irrelevant. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is limit contact or go no contact entirely. This isn't giving up on family. This is choosing yourself. This is recognizing that some relationships are too toxic to maintain, even with boundaries in place. Going low contact means you interact minimally. You might see them at major holidays but decline other invitations. You don't share personal information. You keep conversations surface level. You protect yourself by limiting exposure. Going no contact means you cut off communication entirely. This is a last resort for situations where the relationship is actively harmful. It's not a decision to make lightly, but sometimes it's necessary for your survival and well-being. Remember that boundaries can evolve. What you need now might be different from what you need in 5 years. You can adjust boundaries as circumstances change. You can also reinstate contact with someone if they demonstrate genuine change over time. The goal isn't to punish anyone. The goal is to create space for healthy relationships to exist. Sometimes that means stepping back from unhealthy ones. Sometimes that means ending them entirely. Only you can decide what's right for your situation. Here's what I want you to take away from this. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You are allowed to prioritize your mental health and happiness, even when it disappoints family members. Setting boundaries with difficult family members is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. It goes against everything we're taught about family loyalty. It triggers guilt, fear, and doubt. But it's also one of the most important things you can do for yourself. Your peace matters. Your mental health matters. Your happiness matters. And any family member who truly loves you will eventually understand that. The ones who don't? They're showing you exactly who they are and what they value. Believe them and act accordingly. Start small if you need to. Set one boundary with one person. See how it feels. Build from there. You don't have to overhaul every family relationship overnight. Progress is progress, no matter how slow. And remember, you're not alone in this. Millions of people struggle with difficult family dynamics. There's no shame in seeking support from a therapist, joining a support group, or confiding in friends who understand. You don't have to figure this out by yourself. Your family doesn't get to determine your worth. They don't get unlimited access to your life. They don't get to treat you poorly just because you share DNA. You get to decide what you will and won't accept. That's not selfish. That's self-respect. And you deserve it.